Amendment is a series of actions amending the amendment. If my colleagues across the aisle, as I'm prayerful that what I'm about to ask is truth, my colleagues across the aisle wish to actually have a bill pass the House and have a shot in the Senate, potentially get signed into law, then you'll consider my amendment. Because my amendment, a series of actions amending the amendment in the nature of a substitute, essentially transform this legislation into what would be considered a bipartisan bill. You want a messaging bill for your base? Then by all means, vote down every Republican amendment. By all means, pass it by party line vote on the House floor, and there it will stop. While I appreciate my colleagues across the aisle for their attention to the crisis at the border, the bill before us today is essentially a call for open borders. It's intentionally designed to slow, halt, or outright end immigration enforcement and border security. My amendment strikes some of the bill's most egregious attacks on the rule of law. It would remove the catch and release provision that releases all illegal immigrants into the interior of our country within 72 hours of arrest. Remote stations and large groups of illegal immigrants mean that it can take days to move them to ICE or HHS facilities. Mandating a 72-hour limit on our border officers is an open invitation to cartels and smugglers, stating that there are no real consequences for illegal entry into the United States. So shall we have a sovereign nation or not? This sets a dangerous precedent, ignores reality on the border, and will fuel smuggler propaganda, further endangering the children we wish to protect. Fuel propaganda about our catch and release immigration program. My amendment would also remove language from the underlying bill that would place restrictions on the President's migrant protection protocols and recognize the recently announced asylum reforms. These protocols are designed to address dangerous overcrowding at ports and patrol stations by working with Mexican officials to have asylum seekers wait in Mexico for an appointment with a CBP officer. It's very reasonable. This is not only for the safety of asylum seekers, but also for the safety of American citizens serving their nations as Customs and Border Protection officers. The underlying bill also includes a provision that requires federal, state, and local law enforcement officers to comply with a dozen new administrative requirements for every single routine traffic stop or encounter, every interaction. These officers conduct hundreds of these encounters on a daily basis. My amendment would strike this provision, which is designed to pull border agents away from their primary mission and overburden or even shut down border and immigration enforcement operations. My amendment also includes several common sense additions. It would add language to bar aliens who file a complaint with the bill's newly created ombudsman from using their complaint to stall pending removal of criminal proceedings. They'll game the systems if we don't fix this. It would also expand the GAO report on the border crisis to investigate the impact of mass smuggling operations and add a requirement that the bill's activist-heavy border advisory panel includes individuals with actual boots-on-the-ground border security expertise. What's wrong with that? Our response to the border crisis should be driven by frontline agents, not career politicians and D.C. bureaucrats. Mr. Chairman, no one on this committee, I respect every man and woman present. We're patriots all. I have great admiration and respect for my colleagues here present today. No one on this committee supports inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants coming to this country, and no one wants an unsecure border. It's time to address this crisis, stop 2020 campaign posturing, and I encourage my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to vote in favor of my amendment. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the time, and I yield.